Shedeur Sanders isn't going to make the Pro Bowl. How's that?
That is good odds.
That's another one.
That's very good
That's very good odds.
I don't know.
That's not
the way the Pro Bowl be going,
okay.
I don't know. Let him have two games this rest of the season. He might
two
make
more
it.
good game. Where's the first one?
Well, I know. I said two. I slowed down.
Yep.
I slowed down when I said the more.
He's going to have to really do better the next time he plays.
People in Cleveland got their wish. They got their man.
They did. Shedeur Sanders played an entire half of football for the Cleveland Browns, and he looked horrible. All right, 4 for 16 passing, 47 yards.
Don't forget he completed his first 2.
He did. So he actually finished 2 of 14 there at the end with an interception.
Fumble.
And a 13.5 passer rating. He was sacked twice, including a sack fumble, thankfully recovered by his own team, so it wasn't a second turnover. He also had 1 intentional grounding call. Guys, his 13.5 passer rating marked the lowest passer rating by any player with at least 15 attempts in the NFL debut since the immortal Brandon Weeden in 2012.
Who?
Yes.
Even Shedeur himself, despite what your favorite NFL reporter will say, said he had a rough game.
Yep.
It was a tough game. All bad in Cleveland.
Yes. Unless you want to blame everybody other than Shedeur, which is the conversation going around. Even the guys like Rex Ryan I saw, and the issue I had saying I had to put on my sunglasses.
I was waiting.
To watch.
I'm like, look at you being
saying.
mature, not talking about his teeth. You done turned a new leaf. I don't know who you are right now.
I put the sunglasses
Okay,
on.
now that feels right now.
So I could at least look at him. But my point is, he's talking about how they prepared him or didn't give him any snaps and how like he couldn't explain it, but he said it was weird or strange. I can't remember exactly the word that he used. Dan Orlovsky, who played a long time as a backup, said, no, it ain't. I didn't get snaps, and I was a veteran guy who was a backup for a long time. I didn't get snaps with the first team. It didn't happen. So I guess it's different depending on the coach and the organization or whatever. And people have just forgot that these are two young quarterbacks drafted in the same draft. You want to get, and I mentioned this to TJ, you want to get Dylan Gabriel as many snaps as you can to get him. If you picked him, you drafted him 3rd and Shedeur 5th. And then the other thing, too, is if the roles were reversed and Shedeur was named the starter, he got a concussion, and Dylan Gabriel came in and had that performance, people would say he can't play. You know what I mean? Oh, look, did you see? See, I told you he can't play. Like, that is the conversation that I'm convinced people will have. And I understand people have a soft spot for Shedeur because of Deion. And it does, because if his name was Joe Smith, it wouldn't be the same. It's because it's Deion's kid.
I agree.
And people like Deion, and for good reason. Okay? Deion was a Hall of Fame football player, played Major League Baseball, hit a home run and scored a touchdown in the same day for 2 different teams in 2 different major league sports. Like, he's that guy. But to just pin it and say it's because of not getting reps or fumbling the ball or whatever it is, because had he drove the team down and scored the touchdown at the end, no one would have brought up about not having the snaps and all the other stuff that people use. It would have been like, see, I told you he could play. Look at what he did. He beat the Ravens. He marched down the field, whatever. Like, it was set up for Shedeur to do that and have a chance to have a different conversation. But it didn't materialize, and there was a lot of stuff that didn't work out. My point is just this. For people to think that Stefanski and the brain trust at the Browns have come up with a scheme so that Shedeur can't succeed, it is ludicrous to me. It's against everything that goes into sports, where an organization hasn't been able to find a quarterback and develop one or whatever in a long time. And it just doesn't make any sense. If that kid really was the real deal, they would have put him in. And I can't, for the life of me, not think of Tom Brady and the Raiders. Like seriously, this is somebody who worked with Shedeur, who claims to be, a mentor, right, to Shedeur. Geno, Is that really like like they wanted no part of him, and they could have easily had him a couple times in the draft. So I looked at it. Am I saying he can't play? Of course he can play major college football, but stop making excuses for Shedeur. Guess what? Just forget about everything else and just look at his play. He played poorly. There's no other way that you could look at it. He played poorly. Period.
I think two things can be true. I think he played. Let me not say that. He played poorly. I don't think he did play poorly. He left, and what's crazy, I was talking to Rob G about this. That touchdown opportunity he had, if he hits that receiver in the end zone there, who had a nice distance between him and the defender, that changes things, right? Because then you stop looking at the completion percentage. You say, hey, they're right back in this thing. I don't remember if they would have had a lead at that point, but it would have been, you would have tied the game up. Right there, big play. Yeah, it was a moment. He missed that throw. That has to. What were we watching? I think off camera you said Geno Smith had an opportunity. You're like, man, he's got to make that throw in the end zone. You got to make those throws. Those are what pro quarterbacks do. So he played miserably for most of that game. Had a few plays here or there that were some nice plays, some couple completions, way he checked down a couple of times. And so, okay, there's some things that left desirable. However, the other side to this is there is something to be thrown in a second half when you never have gotten snaps. And Cam Newton had this to say, kind of as a quarterback, and what his experience, and you brought it up, each team might be different. Here's what he said, his experience being the starter, but what it was like for his backup.
This is the thing that really irks me the most, is because he doesn't get any reps. Circa 2015, circa when Cam Newton was the MVP, circa when, hey, my backup for the majority of my career was probably the biggest blessing of my career to have a veteran in Derek Anderson. Ron Rivera still knew we're one play away, kid, from you not being available. We would have anywhere from 6 to 12 reps in every single practice that allowed Derek to still have an ability to say, hey, if it goes, how it goes. Now, granted, some will say, well, Cam, you played the position any different. Well, what is that to say about Brock Purdy? Well, what is that to say about any other quarterback that's here? You plan for the what-ifs in this league.
So you brought up a great point. I believe if we asked 32 teams, there will be some that will say, I never got snaps.
Dan Orlovsky sat up there, and he played for the Lions for a long time as a backup. He's not making that story up.
Rob G, we're talking there with the old joke about what they Peyton Manning. They're basically saying his backup never gets any reps. They said, why? They said, because if 18 go out, we're screwed, essentially, to paraphrase that and keep my job. So I do think organizations are different. But what makes this one strange to me is Dillon Gabriel, you say needs all the snaps. I say hasn't wowed me to the point, if I'm them, saying where we should be giving both snaps to just a few. Just a few. Dillon Gabriel's our starter. You get a few because you're both rookies. We're both trying to see what you got to see who our guy is.
So Dillon's what are they watching in practice, though?
Well, I want to watch him go up against the ones is what I'm saying. So, Dillon, you're starting. That's not a question. You are our starter. You're getting 95, 90, 95. We want to see just a few because, A, you're a rookie. You're not Peyton Manning or Tom Brady where we know good and well. You don't know this. You are everything. You might have a bad 2-3 game stretch. We want to see what this guy has. So I'm more shocked that they haven't given him a few reps just simply because Dillon Gabriel is your quarterback, and that means you don't have a quarterback as of right now because he hasn't played that great. He still deserves to be a starter. I'm not saying as long as he's healthy. Also, it'll be interesting. You brought it up with the people being like, man, something going on with this team. It is something about it just feels like they almost have buyer remorse immediately. Maybe it's justifiable. Maybe there's something to you. Maybe it's practice. Maybe they don't like the man or stuff he says. I don't know, but it does feel like
they could cut him if they really like. Sir, what are they holding on for? Seriously.
Well, you need a quarterback.
No. But I'm just they could cut him.
Yeah,
it ain't about selling no jerseys. You sold all the jerseys you want to. You're done with that. If it was about a PR, so he's not playing. We don't even talk about him up until this point because he wasn't playing. So you didn't get any extra juice. If you really don't want the guy in the building or don't want him, or you looked at him about it,
and that's what it feels like. He's here. But we're not gung-ho about it. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, but I'm just saying the idea that you would have a talent in your building and ignore him because there's some bigger power or some bigger because for all the people, and you were one of them, this doesn't make sense to me, and all this, and there's conspiracy, whatever. And then you find out that teams did call, and he said, I don't want to go to Baltimore. I don't want to go to Philly. I don't want to go to teams that have starting. That's why he kept dropping.
But that actually makes sense, though.
But people were saying it was because they were trying to make a point, or the league was trying to say, you know what I mean, like put him in his place. I
still believe that plays a role in
this.
How
if the Ravens called for him? I'm just saying.
Well, because the Ravens actually, you're going to sit behind Lamar Jackson, which is the irony is that this would have been he would have started because Lamar missed a handful of games. But the Ravens are an organization that have done things differently. Look, they took Lamar and didn't say,
Philly
we got to
inquired
figure
as
this
well.
out. Right. And those are both teams that have a quarterback, they took in Mike Vick some years ago. They don't mind maybe some of the what comes with that. So that might have been his own, doing to not want to go and back up those guys because they look like they're projected starters for years to come.
But people made it that the NFL sent out the word not to draft him. That doesn't make sense to me.
Actually, but we get that explanation later, at least makes sense because there had to be some explanation why a guy that for a long time was talked as a first rounder, okay, maybe a second rounder, third, dropped down to fourth to fifth. So at least that, even if that's what happened, that makes sense. There's some type of explanation as to how we got here.
But then if the NFL wanted to put the kibosh, he wouldn't have been drafted at all. I don't understand. Why would he be drafted at all if they wanted to put him in his place?
I still believe that there are people who didn't like his disposition. Not that they're saying he didn't need to be drafted, but there's something about him I don't like, or I don't like his disposition, his attitude.
He still is an NFL quarterback, and he's in the game. I just don't buy it.
So I want to see if he gets his first starter position, where he gets the one snaps. And I want to see what that looks like.